Brilliance Audio presents The Air Raid Killer by Frank Goldammer, performed by Alexander Sendes. Max Heller had trouble pulling himself up. His 6-foot frame barely fit in the BMW sidecar, but a military motorcycle was the only vehicle available. He winced as he freed his right leg and planted both feet on the cobblestones. A freezing drizzle had set in on the ride over, and he wiped his face, then shook his head in disapproval. Instead of driving him all the way up to the building, Strumpa had dropped him off at the gate. Heller took this as a show of contempt. The young SS sergeant clearly didn't like him. Heller stood facing the Dresden Rowing Club building. He turned up the collar of his long overcoat and buried his fists deep in the pockets. And there he stood, the moisture collected in his short, gradually graying hair since he'd forgotten his leather flat cap, and he drew his shoulders up against the cold. He wasn't sure where he was supposed to go. The Elbe River was a dreary sight, all gray and faded on this last afternoon of November. A few trees stood along the bank, leafless and darkened from the damp. Upstream, Heller could see the barrels of dummy flak guns. The clouds hung low, shrouding the slopes of the opposite bank in a foggy haze. Soon it would be dark, he sniffled. Then a figure emerged from the shadowy backdrop of damp plaster walls. "Herr Detective Inspector?" asked the uniformed cop, walking toward Heller. He thrust his right arm into the air. "Heil Hitler!" Heller was forced to wrench his hand from his pocket. He returned the salute without a word. The cop stepped to the side and bowed, letting Heller go first. "It's in the old boathouse," he said. It was less than 50 yards away, yet the cold had crept into Heller's bones, and he struggled on his right foot. He took every step with caution, feeling the cop growing impatient. Once at the boathouse, Heller halted to let the cop go first. The cop didn't move. "You go ahead. She's in the far back of the workshop." Heller stared at the man, then entered the structure. It was little more than a shed attached to the large garage where the boats were kept along with long oars and other equipment. He smelled brackish water, oil, and worn metal. "Right through there," the cop told him. "You could just go first," Heller said, annoyed. There was a light on, though the bulb was weak and dim. It was depressing, like everything these days. "No one else here?" Heller asked. "No photographer?" "No one yet, Herr Detective Inspector, but we requested the works." Heller nodded. All they could do was try. "Was anyone at the scene? Anyone touch the body?" "No, Herr." The cop ran into Heller, who'd stopped abruptly. The door to the workshop was wide open, and nothing could have prepared Heller for what he saw in there. "Who found her?" Heller asked, his voice straining. "Two boys. We have them over in the clubhouse." "So no one's entered the room?" Heller made himself stop staring at the corpse and scanned the floor for clues. Something must have been left behind among all this dust and oil. The blood had congealed. A pool of it had formed rifts like a dried-up mud puddle. "I'll need light in here, plenty of it, and the photographer. We'd have to black out the windows." "Then get it done." The cop nodded and disappeared. Heller studied the woman. She was sitting, her wrists bound to the workbench with strong rope, her arms spread wide as if nailed to a cross. Her blouse and undershirt had been torn open, her skirt as well. A length of the same rope was used to bind her legs. Her lower areas were fully exposed, her underwear and long stockings pulled down to her ankles. Her head hung forward, down to her chest, and Heller could only see the back of her neck. He wiped at his face again. The rain was coming down harder, hammering the tin roof and gurgling down the gutters and downspouts. Heller crouched to see if the woman was gagged. He couldn't tell, not with the room so dim, and he couldn't risk touching the light switch. He left her face in the dark. Soon he heard engine noises and male voices. He straightened up and stuffed his hands in his overcoat pockets.